Hey boo, hey, happy Wednesday or whatever day you're listening to this on. So today I'm going to be pulling back the curtain a little bit, sharing some of the tea on how I've been able to run two businesses while being a mom of two toddlers. I'm home full time. I have a very super supportive, loving husband. He's very present, but he also has a career and we have no childcare. So it's a lot. There's a lot going on, but I found a way to juggle these things and make it work. And I just want to share and pull back the curtain a little bit on what this looks like for me. So first, I kind of want to talk about what I just mentioned, which is childcare and scheduling and boundaries. So, one thing I understand and I recognize how important it is to talk about what childcare looks like for a lot of us moms in business, because I feel like a lot of times we don't recognize that sometimes people have different levels of support, and then we're comparing ourselves to their business, or we're comparing ourselves to someone who, might have older children and we might not be there yet. And so as a mom who has both of my kids, they're not school age yet, and they're both at home. And so one thing that I've been very honest about is I don't have childcare. I have learned to prioritize scheduling, and I've learned to really embrace and leverage the support system that I do have. So like I said, I have a husband. He's very present. He does have a career, and his career does require him to travel quite a bit. But the good part is that a lot of weekends he is home, or I will say most weekends he's home. And then his parents live about 30 minutes away. And so I do have access to his parents. And so I know his parents' schedules. And so based off of that, I build my schedule around my support system. And so that's thing number one. I'm not going to be the person to say you have to have childcare, although there was a 5 or 6 month period, well, probably more like 5 month period, where I did have a babysitter, and I had a babysitter that came in one day a week for about 4 or 6 hours. And that was really great because it gave me more time to work. But this didn't happen until a couple of months ago, to be honest. This is a very recent thing. I've built both of these businesses. I have a photography business and I have a coaching business, and both of them I built with small kids at home with no childcare, besides my husband, of course, and then the grandparents. And I did this doing the whole naps and nighttime grind. And I know a lot of people kind of try to shade nap time, nighttime grind, or they say, oh, don't encourage moms to do that, whatever. But my thing is, I enjoy my businesses. I love my businesses. I want them to grow and thrive. And so because of that, I was willing to sacrifice a little bit of sleep in order to build this thing off of the ground. And so the tea is, or the gag is, as much as I talk about bare minimum and you can build a business only working 2 hours a day, this, that, and the third, the truth is that it's a slow grind, right? It's a slow grind because of childcare, because we're having to coordinate who's going to watch the kids. Or if you don't have someone to watch the kids, then in that case, you have to do the nap time and the nighttime grind. And then once the kids drop their naps, it becomes only a nighttime grind. And it can be very taxing. It can be very challenging. But the truth of the matter is that if you want to, you will do it. And different seasons of motherhood will allow you more time and flexibility, because I remember thinking when I was doing the nap time grind, oh, this is great. And then when my kids dropped the nap, I was like, oh my gosh, this is terrible. Because for me, having them take a nap and me being able to work during that nap time meant that I could go to bed at night. And now we're in a season of life where there is no nap time. So I have no choice but to work at night. And this goes to the scheduling piece, I do have Sundays. I have Sundays where I can work for about 4 hours because my husband's home. And then in terms of serving clients, I serve clients on Sundays because my husband is home. So a lot of my coaching calls, my one-on-one coaching calls, those happen on Sundays. A lot of my photography, my photo shoots, those would happen on Sundays, or they do happen on Sundays, because that's when my husband is available to be home and watch the kids. It actually works out really well because a lot of my clients are moms, whether it's the coaching business or the photography business. So their spouses are also home on the weekend, or they have grandparents that can help out. And so it actually works out really well that I'm serving them on the weekend. But I think the key when we're thinking about time, and it can be so tricky, is that what works for you might not work for someone else, right? I have a lot of clients who, they look at me like I'm crazy when I tell them that I work from midnight until 2 or 3 in the morning. But that works for me because I'm a night owl. I enjoy that. And also, I enjoy working when the kids are asleep. I don't enjoy working when they're awake. I don't enjoy waking up before them. Actually, I'm not going to wake up before them. Usually I wake up 5 minutes before the kids. And that's a boundary for me. The boundary for me is I don't enjoy waking up before the kids. I don't enjoy working with the kids. Therefore, I have to schedule things differently. And I think that something that commonly happens is that we're looking at other people's businesses and we're thinking to ourselves, oh, I should be able to do this, when we're not thinking about the fact that, oh, but her kids are in school, or her kids go to daycare, or they have a nanny, or the grandparents live with them, right? There might be so many different circumstances that allow certain people to build their business a certain way. And we have to just recognize that the way that you're going to build it, like the timeline when you're going to do things, it's going to look different based off of the support system you have. And so I'm definitely blessed enough to have my husband. I'm blessed enough to have his parents that are like 30 minutes away. And so because of that, I'm able to play with multiple different schedules and then build my schedule around that. And I find that it's easier for me to build my schedule and my business schedule around their schedules versus building my own calendar in my head and then hoping that I can find people that are available. So I make sure that I know what days my dad is off. So in that case, if I have something that I want to do, I'll plan it for either his day off or I'll plan it for my husband's day off. And so it works itself out where I'm able to do the work that I want to do without feeling overly taxed. And I think that's the key. I had to learn, okay, lean on your community, even if it feels like a little challenging, even if it feels weird asking for help. But I realized in order for me to do what I want to do, in order for me to build the company the way I want to build it, in order for me to enjoy motherhood and to enjoy building this business, I have to lean on my resources. And so if you have access, I would say definitely use it, but also there's no shame in hiring help. And so just the last thing to say about daycare, or not daycare, but childcare in particular, one thing that I did is I played with the idea of like having a babysitter. And so we did have a babysitter come in, and this was just like a few months ago, where we had a babysitter come in and she watched the kids, like I said, for a couple of hours, maybe like 4 or 6 hours a week, one day a week. And I thought that was really, really great. And it is helpful. I always recommend to my moms to have one day a week that you can dedicate to having a longer amount of time. So while I truly believe that you can build a business in 2 hours a day, I will always say and stand by the fact that you do need one day a week that you have a little bit more than 2 hours. Even 3 hours is great, but you just want to give yourself a larger chunk of time so that you can sit down and have a little bit more concentrated time to work, record, film, do whatever it is that you want to do client calls, things like that, but have that day. And for me, that day is Sundays. Sometimes I have to switch it up. Like this year, it's been Tuesdays just because I have a mastermind. But all this to say, I want to encourage you, get childcare support. If you need to hire a babysitter, if you look in Facebook groups, you can find one. If you ask around, like to your other mom friends, I'm sure they can refer someone to you, or leverage the grandparents. Okay. And then you have to pay them. Win is a win. The second thing that I want to share is, in order for me to be able to build the companies the way that I've been able to build them, I have had to become okay with getting less done. And this has been such a mind game for me because I'm definitely more of a type A personality. I'm very performance driven. I'm very much so, if you give me a checklist, I want to check everything off. And it has been it's been such a mindset shift of really like me really stepping into my leadership era for me to be like, you know what, it's okay for me to get less done if the things that I'm getting done are high impact activities. And so I have noticed that over the years, I've gotten less done, or I've been okay with getting less done, but the things that I'm getting done are things that truly move the needle forward. And also I've noticed that the things that I'm getting done, while they are maybe less things in theory, like in number, these things take a significant amount of time. So last year, I literally spent the whole year working on one project, like one system in my entire company. I had to be okay with getting less done if it meant that I was focused on things that actually moved the needle forward. And more importantly, like last year, like I said, with the project that I was working on, it took me all year, and I could have been really down on myself. And actually, like towards the end of the year, I started to think to myself, girl, you only worked on this one thing all year. But then I realized that one thing, focusing on this one system, it was my client experience system, working on that one system made me so much money. And at the end of the year, I ended up selling almost $7,000 worth of services in literally, I want to say 4 days, all because I had worked on the system all year long. And that might sound small, but the truth is that I made a ton of money throughout the year focusing on this one system and letting it be my priority because it was a high impact activity. And then I was able to see higher conversions in a shorter time frame because of the work I had done in that area. And I'm still doing work in this area. And so I think that the biggest shift I had to make is recognizing and being okay with the fact that sometimes you're going to get less done, but it's okay if that means that you are really focusing on things that actually move the needle forward and make progress in your business versus trying to focus on doing every little tedious thing in your business and really getting nothing done, or you're not really fully finishing any one big thing that needs to be done. So that's something else that I learned. A third thing for me, and a third way that I've been able to run my business as a mom that has 2 small children, is that I have very bare minimum offers. And I teach this concept inside Money Mama, but essentially a bare minimum offer is just having a very simplified offer that it doesn't take a lot of time or effort for me to deliver it. And this one was really hard because I used to have really complicated high touch offers. And I believe in high touch offers, but I don't believe in having a high touch offer that makes it to where I'm having to work literally around the clock because I have to fulfill a client's project or whatever. That was not cute for me. Okay. That was not cute at all. And so because of that, I really embraced this concept of having a bare minimum offer. And so what I focus on with my offers now is this a simple offer? Is this something that I can deliver to people simply, but also can people get an offer? Can people get the result very simply? Can they get it very easily? And that is my focus with my offers. And so I really try to be intentional about, okay, what is the end result of this offer? What are people getting as a result of this? What am I doing for them? And how much time or how much effort is this going to take me? It's another reason why, even though a lot of people are shying away from courses and digital products, I embrace them a lot because this is a very bare minimum offer. It's something that I can create one time. I can obviously update it. And that's something that I did last year. I made a huge update, a huge overhaul to the Money Mama curriculum. We got on a new course platform. Everything is just new and reimagined. But at the end of the day, it's a very simple offer. The offer itself is just a matter of me promoting it because all I have to do is fulfill. If I do a call for it, I can do that. If I want to do audits or respond to comments, it's very simple tasks, things that can take me anywhere from 1 hour a week to max 3 hours a week. And that's if I decide to do a call that week. And so what's really important is understanding, is your offer simple enough so that you can either run more people through the offer and make money that way, or is it simple enough that you can almost standardize it or systemize the actual offer itself so that you can run more people through the process? That's something that I actually did inside of my photography business, where I made it to where essentially there is such a tight process that I don't even have to talk to people before they book and have pretty much gone through half of my process in terms of working together. They've already gone through half the process before we've even had a face-to-face conversation. And that's including them paying the invoice and all the other things. And I love this because it makes it to where I know that my offer is super simple. And I also know that I'm getting my clients a very consistent result. And that is key for me. A key thing for me is I want to make sure that my clients are consistently getting the same result or a similar result. And you're able to do that when you really focus on having a really clean, lean, and bare minimum offer. So the fourth thing I want to share is delegating and automating. And I feel like people talk about this a lot, but I kind of talked about this just a second ago, but I really created systems so that I could rinse and repeat my processes and things in my business. It has been so important to me to make sure that my clients get a very consistent experience and that my clients are consistently getting whatever result I'm promising. And so because of that, I have found that as a mom who I have 2 small kids at home, I need to be able to be like, okay, here's my process. Here's what's going on. What can I give to someone else? What can I turn into a system? What can I automate? If there's an automation that can do this, what can I do to make this process faster or that can save me time where I'm not having to actively work? And so it's not that I don't want to work. I want to be very clear on that. It's not that I don't want to work. It's that we have to work smarter. As moms, we have to work smarter. And so I've embraced AI. I know a lot of people are like half and half when it comes to AI, but I think that there are very effective ways that we can use AI tools like automations, like things that will take our content and summarize it for us, or take our client calls and summarize it. For my photography business, I use an AI tool to help me edit, and it just speeds up my process. Where it used to take me several days to edit a photo shoot, now it takes me a couple of hours because I'm able to leverage these tools to help me do these things faster. And so I just want to say, embrace delegation, embrace automating things, and just think to yourself, in everything you do, is there a system that can do this faster? Or can I create a system and then give it to someone else and let them do the system for me? And so even when it comes to managing my clients, there are certain parts of client management that I have outsourced to someone else because I have a process. I know this is how I want things to go. And so I've taught the process to someone, and now boom, they're able to implement it. And now everybody's getting a very consistent experience, but like I don't have to do every single touch point. That is the point that I'm trying to get to, or that's the point that I try to get all my mama CEOs to. And that's the point that I've gotten to where I'm like, okay, there are certain things, like I said before, there are some of my services, I don't even talk to my clients until literally the very end. They've gone through my whole process because everything is automated. Everything is set up. I have very I don't want to say strict, but I have very intentional systems that allow people to move from step 1, step 2, step 3. And then when we get to the end, okay, boom, now it's time for us to make the magic happen. We do our little thing, and then boom, you have the perfect photo shoot, or you have the perfect sales audit, or you have the perfect coaching experience. And it's because everything else has been set up in place so that when we get to this point where the real work happens, it's a super simple process. There's no going back and forth. There's no, oh, I need your, I need your colors, or I need your fonts, or I need your brand deck, I need this. I don't need all that. I already have it, and now we can go from there. And so I feel like once I really started embracing that, it made it to where I realized that we shouldn't be going back and forth with clients. That actually makes the client experience really clunky when you're having to ask them 5,000 different questions. It's like, put it in a questionnaire. Make a questionnaire of all the questions that you need answers to, and educate them on why this is so important. Educate them on the fact that, listen, if you give me these things, or if you have these things already set up somewhere, you can give me access to it, this is going to make our project get done faster or smoother, or you're going to have the experience that you truly want, or get the result you truly want, because I have everything I need to do my job. When we position it like that, they trust us more. And I realized the feedback that I was getting from clients was how much they trusted my experience, how much they were grateful for my process, because they could see, oh, Kay actually has a plan, because I do, because I created a process for this. And I feel like that is the thing that took me from inconsistent income. Some months I would make $3,000, other months I'd make $7,000, and then I'd have a $2,000 or $1,000 a month. And it was because I didn't have proven systems. So I would have months where I would get a bunch of clients, and then because I couldn't fulfill things fast enough, I would have to stop my marketing, or I have to stop selling because I have to serve these clients, but I'm going back and forth, and it's taking 2 months instead of 1 month to finish this project. And this project over here, someone had one of my highest offers, and it was all these different pieces I had to give, and it was just this is not bare minimum. This is too much, and I'm doing too many things. And I realized it's because there's no system, there's no process. My offers are overly complicated, and because of that, I could have a good month, but the next 2 or 3 months would be trash because I'm having to fulfill what I promised these clients, and I can't do any additional work because, and this is just me, I don't like showing up and doing things when I know I owe people stuff, right? So when I know I owe you work, I don't want to be promoting things and acting like, oh, I'm just so booked and busy. No, girl, go do your work and then come back. But now that I have systems, I don't have to worry about it. That's not even a thought that comes into my mind because there are systems in place. People's projects, they stay on time. There are no delays. I mean, obviously things happen and there are delays here and there, but for the most part, I will say 90% of the time, 95% of the time, there are no delays. Everybody's project stays on time because we have these systems in place. So it took some time. I'm gonna be honest, it took some time to get here. I think it was definitely after I closed my agency. When I think back to my agency days, there were a lot of good things, but there were also a lot of bad things on my end. And it really revolved around the fact that I didn't have systems in place. And so originally, one of my first businesses that I had was a social media marketing agency. And while the social media agency was a really great agency and I had a lot of clients and it did very well, the problem was, one, I was the bottleneck, but two, there were no processes. But so with each client, I had to almost start from ground zero. And that becomes tricky and that becomes challenging as you start to grow, as you start to sign more clients. It becomes a situation where, okay, this is not efficient. And as a mom, especially when I was pregnant with my second, it became really hard to keep up. And I think that's the problem that a lot of us run into, especially as service providers. It becomes hard to keep up. But the truth of the matter is that it's not hard to grow a service-based business as a mom. I actually recommend people try to keep their service-based business as long as possible, just because you have a skill that you can always monetize versus with coaching. I mean, I'm a coach, right? So this is no shade to coaching, but with coaching, it can be a little more tricky because it's sometimes we don't always have an offer that allows us to default back to our skills. So I actually try to tell people to merge the two, or to keep some of your services on the back end. That way you can still have a skill that you're selling, so that if coaching is slow, that's okay. But getting back to the point of a service-based business, what I like to say with people with service businesses is that you can grow that and have a decent sized client roster without burning yourself out. But the key is you have to have those systems, and you have to know when you can automate and when you should delegate. And that's the key, really recognizing, okay, at a certain point, at a certain number of clients, maybe you have a certain number of people on your wait list or whatever, it's now time to add a team member or to add a support somewhere, so that you can actually have the people that you need in order to fulfill your client projects, but also so that you can make sure that your process is actually flowing the way it needs to. This becomes a whole little side conversation, but I will say that like my service-based business has probably been my favorite business to grow, because I'm able to see what it looks like to have systems that work for you, to have team that works for you, and for you to just come in and do what you're good at. For the most part in my photography business, I only do two things, like two main things. One is my strategy calls where I plan out the photo shoot and actually the photo shoot. That's it. Everything else has either been outsourced or I use a tool that makes the process faster. So really I end up not doing too much work there anyway. And I think that's the key. And that's how I've been able to, when people wonder like, how do I have two businesses? It's because I have systematized the businesses. And so that makes it to where it's very, very easy for me to do both, and it not really impact my schedule, or it not feel like, oh man, I'm working around the clock. If you follow me on Instagram, you know I share my time cards. Max, I'm probably working like on a heavy week. If I have a photo shoot or something like that, I might work like 22 hours in that week. But for the most part, I work anywhere from about 12 to 17 hours a week. And that's my average with two different companies. This is me taking two companies and putting them both together. And sometimes I even include the time for my personal brand, just so that I feel like I actually did a little bit more work that week, because sometimes I don't have much to do because my client load might be a little bit lighter, or I might be doing some like offboarding or whatever. And so in that case, I don't have as much client load to focus on. But the systems, that really is the thing that kind of takes you to the next level and makes it to where you're able to consistently keep up with your business. So let me finish this out by sharing that I think the biggest thing when it comes to building a business as a mom with young kids especially is it's so important to have tunnel vision and not compare yourself to other people. One of my biggest obstacles that I would run into when I was first building my business was looking at other people's businesses and thinking to myself, I should be there. I should be where they are because I've been in business for 3 years or 2 years or whatever. And I would tell myself this stuff, and then I would just really beat myself up because I wasn't at the level that I saw some of my peers at, and we all started together. But the truth was that my situation was different. I had, at one point I just had one kid, and then at another point I had two small kids. And the truth is that I took several breaks in my business. I took legitimate breaks in my business where I wasn't showing up and being visible. I wasn't, doing any collaborations or partnerships or anything. I was literally just sending emails and selling to my internal audience, but that was it. And so because of that, I had to recognize it's not fair to compare my business or what I'm doing to what someone else is doing, because we don't have the same circumstances. We're not in the same situation. And what they're doing, I don't even want to do. And that's the other thing I had to think about. I didn't realize there were certain things that people do in their businesses that I wasn't willing to do. Not because there was anything wrong with what they were doing, but I literally don't want to do that. I'm not the girl that's going to be like, I'm posting every single day. Do I do it sometimes? Of course. But that's not my baseline. My baseline strategy is not, I'm going to post every single day. And so because of that, I had to get tunnel vision. I had to decide, okay, this is my lane. This is where I want to focus. This is what I want to do. This is what I'm willing to do. And this is what I'm not willing to do. And so by doing that, I was able to say, you know what? My circumstances and my situation is different from the next person. And I'm not going to worry about what she's doing. What she's doing works for her, but in this season, it's not going to work for me. And it probably will never work for me, and that's okay. And I think that once I shifted and really allowed that to be my new perspective and my new focus, I had a new guiding light. I was able to say, this is the goal of Kay Hillman Photography. I was able to look and know these are the goals. This is what I want. These are the aspirations that we have. This is the vision that we have. And I was able to just go full force into that and not feel or beat myself up about not being where I saw somebody else, because the truth is that where someone else is has nothing to do with what me and my company is doing. And once I embraced that, it allowed me to have so much more freedom and just to feel more at peace and happy about the business that I was building versus feeling like, oh man, I'm missing out on something. I'm so behind, this, that, and the third. I was able to let that feeling go and really just embrace, okay, this is the season you're in. Like, you're in the messy season of toddlerhood, right? And sometimes you're going to be dog tired because they want to wake up early or they want to stay up late. And that's cool. I prefer to have those yo-yo moments with them versus being stressed out about the business. And so because of that, certain things fall to the wayside. And so there were seasons where my podcast, I just didn't record episodes. I didn't even announce it. It just, hey, the podcast has to take a back seat because I am busy being a mom right now. And I realized like tunnel vision for me and not comparing myself meant that I got to dictate, or I got to decide what my focus was going to be, what my priority was going to be. And so instead of comparing myself and saying, oh, I'm not at 6-figure months yet, instead I was able to say, you know what? I am choosing in this season to prioritize being present at home. And not saying that other people aren't, I'm just saying like I had to tell myself that was what I was prioritizing, and that was okay. I had to give myself permission to be like, okay, right now, this is the focus. And maybe in a few years, we can come back and spin the block on 100K months if that's what we want at that point. But for right now, that's not going to be the focus. And when I was able to do that, I was able to like just tune out what everybody else was doing. And now I've tuned it out so much, I don't even get on social media much anymore to see what other people are doing, because it truly doesn't matter. Because when I think about what my companies are doing, what the purpose is, what the mission is, what we're trying to do, I realized it has nothing to do with what anybody else is doing and everything to do with what I feel called to do in this season of life, in the season of business, and in what I've been created to do. And so because of that, it's really helped me just stay laser focused on, okay, here's who I'm called to serve, here's how I'm called to serve them, and this is where I'm going to focus, versus me kind of putting myself in this negative spiral of feeling like inadequate or overwhelmed, or just comparing myself to what someone else is doing when what they're doing is literally none of my business. Okay, so that's the tea. Those are the things or the lessons that I've learned, the areas that I focus on as a mom of 2 toddlers who has been building 2 successful businesses over the last 7 years. These are like some of the take home things that I'm like, these have been some really big eye-opening lessons and mindset shifts that have really helped me continue to just show up for this thing even in moments where it feels hard, because sometimes it is hard. Sometimes I do want to give up, and sometimes I do give up. Sometimes I'm like, I'm not going to do this right now, moving on, and I don't feel bad about it. And I feel like these things, having these conversations, sharing this kind of stuff can really encourage the next person to just recognize motherhood is a lot, and then you add on business and you add on just all the other life obligations. It can be a lot, but I want to encourage you to know it's possible for you to do this if it's something that you want to do. And depending on what season of life you're in, what your capacity looks like, that's going to dictate how fast you go. And it's not a race. It's not a race for you to reach $1 million tomorrow. It's not a race. There's no race to do this. You can do it in your own timeline, and things will happen according to the timeline that it needs to happen on. And it's okay. You're not behind. You're not doing things too slow. You're not even doing things wrong, right? Take your time. You will get where you need to go when the time comes. All right, that's it for this one. Until next time, I'll talk to you later, darling. Oh, and if you haven't done so already, go and download my guide. It's a free guide on how to sign your next 10 clients. And I teach you a few strategies and a few tips on what I do every single day in order to sign clients. And I think it'll help you. So if you haven't done that, go grab it. And until next time, talk to you later, darling. Okay, that one was hard.